Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the next President of the United States, Mr. Donald J. Trump. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the next President of the United States, Mr. Donald J. Trump. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the next President of the United States, Mr. Donald.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. So nice. So nice. So good. Thank you very much. I love you too. USA. 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 So good, so good. Thank you very much for being here. This is an amazing crowd. And we have thousands of people outside trying to get in. The fire marshal was very nice to us. We're stacked right into the corners. So I thank the fire marshal, but about 2,000 to 3,000 people. They're going home. That's bad. Does anybody want to give up their place to the people outside? Is there one person in this whole room? Raise your hand, please. No one. Okay, that's good. That means we want to be here, right? So we have had an amazing period of time. You know, I started this whole journey on June 16th, and from practically the time I began till now, we've been in #1 position. Can you believe that? Amazing. And a couple of days ago, CNN came out with the latest poll where we're 49 for Trump. Rubio is 16, but after last night's... Little Marco. Do you know that in Florida, they hate little Marco Rubio so much? It's true. Because of the fact that he never votes. He never shows up to vote. So when you think, I mean, actually, if you use, I'll use a word that he uses, he has conned the people of Florida into voting for him. And I'll tell you what, they are angry because he never shows. He has the worst voting record in all of Florida. He has the worst voting record in the United States Senate and one of the worst voting records in the history of the United States Senate. I don't think he's going to do too well. They are angry at him. He couldn't be elected dog catcher. So last night he had a very, very bad night. According to the various polls, he lost the debate badly. But he's at 16, so he's going to go down. So it's Trump at 49. Little Marco Rubio at 16. Cruz, Lion Ted Cruz, Lion Ted. You know, it's amazing. No matter what you say with Ted, he'll change it. He'll do whatever he has to do. You call up, oh, I didn't know I did that. So it's Ted. Remember what he did to Dr. Carson, to Ben Carson? He said, oh, no, he's quit the race. He's out of the race. Vote for me. Thousands of him. So Carson was a good guy. So Cruz is at 15, and Kasich is only at 6. I don't know. That sounds low. And we just signed on, you know, Jeff Sessions he's really one of the greats in terms of law and order, in terms of border, in terms of judicial. But Jeff Sessions just came on. And actually, he's a very good friend of Cruz, and Cruz could not believe that it happened. But Senator Jeff Sessions, highly respected, great guy. And another one in terms of the border, Sheriff Joe, right? Sheriff Joe. So we're doing really well, and it's been amazing. And we're going to talk about today trade. We're going to talk about borders. We're going to have a lot of fun, even though it's, you know, it's fun, it's sort of interesting. We're going to talk about cars. We're going to talk about cars. Don't worry, folks. We're going to be building the wall. We're going to build the wall. Are you ready? And who is going to pay for the wall? Who? You better believe it. Did you see where the former president of Mexico, Vicente Fox, he said, "We will not pay for that F wall." Now, could you imagine if I said it, and he said it, he threw out the F-bomb, and I'm just saying to myself, if I said it, I probably wouldn't be here today, right? This guy used the F-bomb in a major interview with CNN or somebody, and I want to tell you, that was shocking and a disgrace. And I think he should apologize to the people of Mexico and to the people of the United States. We are calling on him to apologize. And he said he will not pay for the wall. So we've come a long way, because he actually said, "I will not." It's interesting when he says, "I will not," right? He doesn't say Mexico will not. He says, "I." So he thinks a lot of himself. But he said, "I will not," meaning Mexico will not pay for the F wall. And I thought it was a horrible thing. And what's interesting is that at least now he knows the wall is going up. He didn't say we're not going to allow a wall. In other words, we've come a long way. He now said he's not going to pay for the wall. Before, he used to say, "We will not allow a wall." Now he says we won't pay for the wall. He will pay for the wall, folks, okay? He will pay for the wall. And you know what happened when the press called up and they told me about it? They said, "Well, do you have a response?" I said, "The wall just got 10 feet higher." You know that. 10 feet higher. We don't play games. We're not playing games. We're not playing games. We are not going to play games. There's no games with us. You know, the thing that bothered me about ex-President Fox is the arrogance, the way, you know, it wasn't so much the wall. It wasn't that we're not going to pay and they're not going to pay for the wall, what he said. It was he couldn't believe that the United States would actually be asking them for something. The arrogance. He couldn't believe, how dare you ask us, the hatred and the arrogance of this guy, because they're used to getting their way 100%. They're not going to get their way anymore, folks. They're not getting their way anymore. They're not getting their way. And speaking of that, I'm not going to go through the whole thing with the escalator ride. You've all heard it. Let me tell you, I'm going to go right to the car business. Do you mind? Because this is car country, rapidly becoming not car country, but we're going to keep it car country, okay? So, about a year and a half ago, I heard that Ford, anybody work for Ford here? Good company, smart company. But I heard that Ford is going to build a plant in Mexico, $2.5 billion. And I have to tell you, you know, for a one-story building, that's got to be about the most expensive plant I've ever heard of. Is that a correct statement? You guys are in the car business. It has to be one of the most expensive. So they're going to build it in Mexico. They're going to make cars, trucks, and parts. And they're going to sell them all over, but they're going to sell a lot of them right into the United States. Now, listen to this. Listen to this. Don't worry. I'm with you, folks. I'm with you. And by the way, this is the reason I'm leading by a lot in Michigan, because everyone knows all I talk about is cars. I have friends in other industries. They say, all you talk about is cars. Will you start talking about us? I said, no, I like cars. I like cars. But But I do. I devote a lot of time because Mexico is becoming the car capital of the world, whether you like it or not. Sure. And we're going to turn that around. You know, in Tennessee, a great state that I won, by the way, by a tremendous... You know, when I won, of course, I've won most of them in all fairness. So far, I like it. But when I win them, I feel like a warm spot. Now, March 8th, Tuesday, you got to do me one favor. You know, I'm self-funding my campaign. I'm self-funding. You got to get out and vote. Because I promise you'll be very happy. Oh, you will be happy with me. You more than most. Michigan, I tell you what, Michigan more than most. Because what's happened to you people is disgraceful. And Michigan more than most. You got to get out. I'm going to say it again later, but March 8th, Tuesday. No matter what's happening, no matter what you're doing, if you get laid off on Tuesday, I still want you voting. I'll get you a new job. Don't worry about it. In a couple of years, you'll go home to your wife or you'll go home to your husband and say, darling, I have so many job opportunities. I'm going absolutely crazy. I don't know what's happening. As opposed to now you get laid off, you don't know what's happening. So we're gonna take care of it. But Tuesday, you have to go out. You know, so I'm self-funding my campaign. I'm putting up my own money. So I'm not controlled by the unions. I'm not controlled by anything. I'm controlled only. And you know what? You have a representative union. I have to say this. You have a representative union. Who here's in a union? Okay. You like your unions? You like them? Uh-oh. I said, you like your union? Nah. I don't know about that, huh? Well, anyway. But you do love your industry, right? The industry is good. All right. So I don't want your money, but I do want your vote. So on Tuesday, you go and vote, okay? And we're going to get this thing going. So Tennessee was going to get a massive car plant, and it was going to be, they were going to manufacture a tremendous plant. And look, we want it within the United States, okay? I mean, we want it in Michigan, but we wanted it within the United States as our second choice in this room, all right? We don't want it going to Mexico. We don't want them going to lots of other places. We want to stop the cars from Japan. If Japan wants to send, you know, I was in Los Angeles, folks. I have never seen more cars pour in. I have never seen larger ships. These ships are massive, and they pull up, and these cars just roll right off the ship, and I've never seen anything like it in my life. You know, we got NASCAR the other day. NASCAR endorsed us. And you have to say, that's a hell of an endorsement, right? That's like getting the NFL. Ladies and gentlemen, the NFL endorsed Donald Trump. Or ladies and gentlemen, Major League Baseball endorsed Donald Trump. Think of it. Think of it. NASCAR endorsed us with many of their drivers, and Brian France, who's the head of NASCAR and an unbelievable guy, the great job he's done. And they just said there's a movement, and the people that are NASCAR fans are Trump fans, and there's a tremendous movement. But when I'm thinking about these ships, so these ships pull into Los Angeles, biggest I've ever seen. They pull into the Los Angeles docks. And I stood there and I thought of NASCAR because those cars were coming off that ship so fast, so many of them. And I'm saying, how is that helping us really, right? I want those cars made in Michigan. I want those cars made here, right? Right? And you know what? The Japanese can do them. The Japanese can do them, but let them make them here. They have so many cars. You know, they give us these little spots. Okay, we'll build a little plant there. We'll build a little one there. We'll keep the Americans happy. We'll build one here. They have stupid leadership. Let's keep them happy. We'll build one here. But when you see those ships fall in, any cars that you see, that's peanuts compared to what we're doing. You have to see. These cars were coming off those ships at like 50 miles an hour. I've never seen anything like it. So, folks, we want them to build the cars here. You know, when China ordered some Boeings, and China's a tremendous abuser of our country. And I love China. They're great. Their leaders are too smart for our leaders. It's very simple, okay? And I have the smartest businessmen in the world. We have the smartest business people in the world in this country. And right now, you know what you have right now? You have political hacks negotiating the biggest deals. You know, No matter what business deal you do, like I'm a big businessman. I have tremendous business. You know, it's funny. They keep talking about my little deals. They talk about water, which I still have. They talk about a magazine, which I still have. You know, I have magazines for my clubs. They talk about little deals. They don't talk about the buildings that are 60, 70 stores all over the place. I'm building buildings all over. We're doing deals. Nobody talks about that. Why don't they? I mean, Forbes just came out and they said I'm worth $4.5 or $5 billion, and they have no idea. Actually, they have no idea. It's much more than that, but I won't tell them. But they don't want to talk about the big deals. They don't want to talk about Trump World Tower. They don't want to talk about Trump Tower. They don't want to talk about 40 Wall Street. They don't want to talk about the Bank of America building in San Francisco. They don't want to talk about the city I built on the west side of Manhattan. They don't want to talk about 1290 Avenue of the Americas. They only want to talk about a steak. Oh, you got a little company, little tiny thing. Or Trump University, which, by the way, I'll win that lawsuit so easy. I'll win that lawsuit so easy. And, you know, it's sort of interesting with Trump University. Small deal, but, you know, a deal that they devoted a lot of time to. And, frankly, many of the people that took the courses, many of the people they signed report cards when they were completed. And it got rave reviews. Everybody, good. Then a law firm comes along and says, listen, if we sue, so they form a class action. If we sue, we'll get your money back. So let's say you took the course and you liked it. And then somebody comes, hey, you liked your course, it's over, we'll get your money back. You'll say, okay. They all sign documents. I don't know even why. They all sign documents, we call them report cards, saying it's wonderful, it's great. So when they come to settle, I say, I'm not going to settle. And you know, the problem with settlers, when you settle, everybody sues you. I watch these banks. Do you ever notice the banks, they get sued over and over again. They have executives at the banks, which is ridiculous. They're being paid $50 million a year, some of these guys. And they always settle. And I say to them, you're getting paid all this money. Why don't you fight the case? Well, it's the government. I said, you should fight the case. You should fight it right to the end. And you make maybe a settlement down the end. But the problem is, when you settle cases, everybody keeps suing you. Does that make sense? When they have to go through a case that takes years and years, like this case has been going on for 4 or 5 years, when they have to go through the pain of really going through a case and really fight, I don't get sued very often. The reason I don't is they say, oh, Trump will never settle. They like to go to the settlers. They sue them. 2 days later, they have a lawsuit settled. They put a lot of money in their pockets, the lawyers. So anyway, so Trump University, I'm going to win that case. It's a civil case, not a big deal. I look forward to going to trial. I'm going to win that case. But they don't talk about all of these massive buildings that I have. They don't talk about the city I built on the west side of Manhattan, which was a tremendous success. They don't talk about all of the deals we're doing all over the country and all over the world, actually. You know, Turnberry in Scotland, etc. They don't talk about Doral, where right now we have the World Golf Championships. You saw that, the Cadillac World Golf Championship. Sponsored by Cadillac. So right now, and I'm supposed to be there, and I'm here with you. I'm supposed to be there. I am right now. I had it marked for 2 years. I have right now. So we have the Cadillac World Golf Championships. Rory McIlroy, everybody's there, right? Phil's doing well, by the way. Phil Mickelson, he's doing great, second place. So I'm supposed to be in Miami at my place watching these great golfers play golf. And here I am in Michigan, and I love it, okay? I love it. I love it. So we're going to talk about cars. One thing, this guy Romney came out yesterday. I mean, the hatred he has, the hatred, the jealousy, the hatred, it's hard to believe. Now, look, let me just tell you. Now, I know you guys should like him, right? I mean, you should like him, but no. Remember the 47%? Remember when he made the statement, 47%, and in one speech, he lost, thank you. In one speech, he lost 47% of the voters. Can you believe it? He's not a smart guy. This is not a smart guy. But anyway, so he came out yesterday, and the reason he doesn't like me is that I said you shouldn't run because you're a joke artist. You ran against Obama 4 years ago. It was a race that should have been an easy win. He made a fool of himself in the second and third debate. I don't know what happened to him. Honestly, I don't know what happened to him. He didn't campaign. He didn't campaign. What the hell did happen? Does anyone know? He didn't campaign. And you know, the sad part is I really helped the guy. I mean, I gave him a lot of money. I raised a lot of money. I had 2 fundraisers in my apartment. In fact, one of them was such a rainy day that it ruined the carpets of my apartment. Everyone's coming in. I had hundreds of people. My carpets were ruined. I think I'm going to send him a bill for new carpet. But here's a disloyal guy. See, he's an elitist. See, to me, I don't consider him elite, but, you know, hey, I don't consider him elite because I'm much richer than he is. He's worth, you know, I have a store that's worth more money than him. It was a very interesting. I jokingly said that because I don't like Romney. I don't like him. He thinks he's hot stuff, and he thinks I hate people that think they're hot stuff and they're nothing. Okay, nothing. But I was in Iowa. And I love Iowa. And by the way, do I love New Hampshire? Do I love South Carolina? And do I love Nevada? And do I love the last, as you saw, the SEC, we had the big night by far. Everyone's saying landslide for Trump. And now on Tuesday, and by the way, over the weekend, we're going to do really well with Maine and lots of other places. And I think that's going to be great. And then Tuesday comes. But what happens is with Mitt, when you run, when people entrust you, you people are entrusting somebody to carry the banner because you don't want to have Hillary. Hillary will be a disaster. She will be a disaster. So when they entrust you, when you know you're given the trust of millions of people to go out, you got to work hard. You got to win. And if you don't win, that's okay. But Romney didn't work hard. Romney disappeared the final month. And say what you want about Obama. He was on Jay Leno. He was on David Letterman. He was all over the place. And I used to say to the people, where is Romney? What happened to Romney? Oh, is that a problem? All right, get the hell out of here, folks. Get him out. Out. Get him out. All right, let's go. Get him out of here. You know, you never know. If I say it too rough, look at all the media back there. Look. Oh, look, the cameras are turned. I love it. They turned the cameras. Oh, that's beautiful. That's so beautiful. By the way, I have to tell you about the media. They are the most dishonest people. They're worse than Rubio, and they're worse than Cruz. They are worse than Little Marco, and they're worse than Lion Ted Cruz, I'm telling you. Lion Ted. What's your name? My name's Lion Ted Cruz. I lie about anything. You know, this guy, I've got to tell you, he goes and he holds up the Bible, and then he lies. It's the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen. It's an unbelievable, he holds up the Bible, and here's the story. In South Carolina, that was supposed to be an easy victory for Cruz. I guess 67% are evangelical, right? 67% evangelical. I won in a landslide, and I won the evangelicals by a lot. Now we have Jerry Falwell Jr. from Liberty University, who sees everybody because they all come through Liberty University. Everybody goes there, makes a speech, and spends time with them. And Jerry Falwell Jr. endorsed me. I think it was a big endorsement. I will tell you. I think it was a really big. And we have many, many ministers and pastors that endorse me. But I win with the evangelicals because you know what? The evangelicals, they probably know I'm not perfect. But they know I'm the best for security. I'm the best for the military. I'm the best for taking care of the vets. I'm the best for knocking the hell out of ISIS. And these other guys, they don't, believe me, they don't have a clue. They talk. They're politicians. All talk, no action. So anyway, so just to finish off, so Romney's a bitter man. He looks like a bitter man. He's attacking really your front runner by a lot, and he wanted to run. And he was going to run, and I put up with it long enough, and I said, look, you can't let him run. He's a choke artist. He choked the last time. And, you know, do you ever see in sports? Now, unfortunately, some of you may be choke artists, so be quiet about it, but don't worry about it. But do you ever see in sports, just keep it to yourselves. Don't tell anybody. But do you ever see in sports, once a choker, always a choker. When you miss the kick one year, you miss the kick the next year. Once a choker, always a choker. And that's the way it goes. You know, the Jack Nicklaus's of the world, Jack was great. The Jack Nicklaus's of the world and the Tom Brady's. I know some of you might not love Tom, but I do. I do. You know, in Massachusetts, I got close to 50%. I think I got over 50% of the vote. And you know what happened? Tom Brady was saying all these great things. Trump is a winner. He's my friend, and he is my friend. He's a great guy. But, you know, when Tom said that, I have to say, in New England, you cannot have a better reference than the great Tom Brady. Do we agree? You just can't. So anyway, we won Massachusetts with record numbers. I got 50,000 more votes than Mitt Romney, who was from there and ran for governor and the whole thing. So, you know, although he did lose very badly when he ran for the Senate. He got killed. So here's the story. Get out of here. Get out. Out, out, out. That was the meekest protester that I've ever seen. We said, get out of here, and he just, okay. That's the kind of protester we like, right? He's okay. Don't hurt him. Don't hurt him. I always say that, because every once in a while we say, knock him, and do I get killed by these characters? You know, like they're legit, right? Like they're legit. You know, we had a case where Ted Cruz was asked about waterboarding, and he couldn't answer the question because, you know, he was politically correct. And in all fairness to him, it was essentially, what do you think of waterboarding? Would you approve it? Would you this? Would you that? And he didn't want to get into it. And I understand that because he wants to be politically correct. You know, they're allowed to chop off the heads of people, including ourselves, but we're not allowed to waterboard. Do you think they think we are the dumbest, weakest people in the world as they sit there? So they asked Ted Cruz about waterboarding, and you can see his answer 2 debates ago, and he's going like, oh, well, waterboarding, what do I say? What do I say? It's so vicious, it's so violent. You know, sort of the minimal, I don't know, I'm sure it's not pleasant, but it's minimal. So he didn't want to get into it. He didn't sort of answer the question. They turned, what do you think, Mr. Trump? So I said, well, throughout the Middle East, they're chopping off heads of Christians. They're chopping off heads of people. Anybody gets in the way. They're drowning 30, 40 people at a time in heavy steel cages. As far as I'm concerned, waterboarding is absolutely fine, but we should go much further. And I got a standing ovation. Standing ovation. Right? Standing ovation. No pollster told me that. You know, these guys can't think without a pollster. So a lot of times I'll go up in the debates and I'll give an answer. I'll give an answer from the heart. I give an answer, whatever it is. Hey, look, if it doesn't work out, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to go back to my old job. That was a good job. You know, you build a great company. You saw I filed. I did the filing. And the filing shows great, great, great company. Tremendous. And you know what? And I mentioned that for one reason. Because it's the kind of thinking we need as our leader. We have to straighten out the 19 trillion in debt, all of the problems that we have. We have a lot of problems to straighten out. So anyway, So Mitt is a very sad guy. He's getting absolutely killed. If you look on the internet, people are disgusted by him. And it's a pretty sad thing. You know, it's very interesting, though. So I was in Iowa, and the Des Moines Register, which honestly is a terrible newspaper, terrible, horrible, not that because it's very liberal, which it is, but it's a terrible newspaper, third rate. It'll be out of business soon. So will the New York Times be out of business soon. So a lot of it. I love it, but I love it. When I hear the bad ones go out of business, but the New York Times is in serious trouble. It'll be out of business soon. So here's the story, which is sort of amazing. The Des Moines Register comes to interview me, and and they ask me about Mitt Romney. And he's nasty, you know, he's a nasty guy. He's like a spoiled brat. So they said, well, he's very wealthy. I said, what do you mean he's wealthy? I have a store that's worth more than him. So they wrote, I have a store, but they didn't believe me. So they came the following day, we get a call. You don't have a store. This is an exaggeration. You don't have a store that's worth. Well, he's supposed to be worth $150 million. So I said, what do you mean I don't? Here, take it. They went out and retained 3 appraisers, and they looked at the store, the Gucci store on 5th Avenue and 56th Street, right? Which I own. I said, just look at the store. Don't look at the building, which I own. Just look at the store. Just the store on the corner of 5th Avenue and 56th Street. So they said, they call up, they said, you're right. It was worth between $400 million and $1.4 billion. So they did a story on my store. Now, nobody talks about that. They talk about Trump University. No, they don't talk about that. They don't talk about these great buildings that I have all over, the great jobs we're doing all over the world. They talk about, you know, whatever they can find. And I've always been told, as a rich person, as a successful person, you cannot run for government. You can't. Because I do like a deal a second. I do many, many deals. Most of them work out. Some of them don't work out. They turn out to be great, because that's when you find out if somebody's a good deal maker. The market collapses in the middle of a big project, or something happens. That's when you find out how good somebody is. That's when you find out if they've got the stomach. That's when you find out. You go to those banks and you say, boom, 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 and you beat the hell out of everybody. And I'll tell you what, I have made deals that should have been disasters into among the best deals I've ever had. Because during the bad time, when the market collapses, I mean, if you're building a big building and you're going up 90 stories, but on the 45th floor, the market collapses. Everything looks good, you're selling, everything's good. Then the market collapses. Now you're building a building and there's no market. It's a total disaster. It's not your fault. Your timing might be your fault, because, you know, I always like to pick good timing, but not your fault. And then you go in, and yeah, that's true. You have to beat up the banks, and you have to beat up everybody around, and you just see. But many of the deals I've had that should have been disasters turned out to be among my best deals. That's when you learn about deal making. That's when you learn who's a good deal maker. So important. So important. So anyway, so let me just tell you a couple of things. We are going to do something that's going to be great. We are a very big beneficiary is going to be Michigan, because I talk about the car business all the time, because the car business is being abused more than most other businesses, right? And a lot of the business comes from overseas, and a lot of the business that you have is now moving to Mexico. Mexico is becoming the new China. What China has done to our country is incredible. They have stolen more money from the United States. It's the worst theft in the history of the world, what they've done to our country. They've taken our jobs. They've taken our money. And I like China. The biggest bank in the world is a tenant of mine in China. They pay their rent on time, I promise. They have 400 million customers. It's the biggest bank in the world. I like China. They're great. But you know what? Their leaders are too smart for our leaders, because that's not free trade. When you hear these stupid people that think they're very conservative, oh, we are conservative. Donald Trump is not a conservative. You know why they think I'm not a conservative? I believe totally in free trade, but it's got to be fair trade. It's got to be fair. It's got to be fair. See, when they say free trade, they're talking about any free trade, and what they're really talking about is stupid trade. Because in China, they send their products in here, right? And there's no barriers, no nothing. They send whatever the hell they want. How often do you see it where a product is really defective, or where it poisons your kids? I mean, you see, they just send the stuff in. When you want to do business with China, folks, it's damn impossible. When you want to get your product, I have friends that are manufacturers, they can't get their product into China. When they do, they're charged a big tax. They're charged a very, very big tax. And you know what? It's not going to happen like that anymore. We're losing $500 billion a year. We have a trade deficit with China. That means they're sending in $500 billion. Do you know what $500 billion? That's a year. So then I hear the stupid people, and some of the stupid people back there, one of them whom I'm looking at, then I see, then I hear the stupid people, Donald Trump is not a conservative because he doesn't believe in free trade. I believe in free trade, but it's got to be smart trade. It's got to be fair trade. It's got to be even trade. So what we have is stupid trade, and we're going to have very smart trade, and we're going to stop this. Because how many nations, and we can't go on like this, how many nations can have a trade deficit of, with one country, $505 billion? Okay? Nobody. You can't go on like that. And by the way, it's been like that for years. So you know what we do? We roll our printing presses, folks. We roll our printing presses. And that's why our middle-income people are making less money, and our workers who built this country, folks, are making less money now than they did 12 years ago, okay? Not going to happen, folks. It's not going to happen. We're not going to let it happen. So all we do is we roll our printing presses faster and faster and faster so that China and Japan and Mexico and Vietnam and India and all sorts of places continue to take money out of your hides. We're going to change it. And you know what? We're going to have a better relationship than we have now. If you look at it now, we don't have a good relationship with any of these countries, so it's the worst of all worlds. Number one, they're ripping us off. Number two, they don't even like us. Look at China in the South China Sea. They're building one of the big military fortresses of all time, airports, all for military. They're not allowed to do it. They're doing it because they don't respect us. So they take our money, and then they do things that they're not supposed to be doing. So it's going to change. And you know what? They're going to like us better. Believe it or not, I'm a unifier. I will unify the country. I'm going to unify blacks and whites. I'm going to unify. And we are not unified now. You know, when we had an African-American president, the one thing I said is, great, because we'll have much more unity. We'll have the African-Americans, the whites, we'll have something. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. It's worse now than ever before. We are going to unify our country. A recent poll came out. A recent poll came out where the African Americans, I was at 25%. This is as a Republican. As a Republican at 25%, normally like Romney got 6%. Normally you get like 5%, 6%, 4%, 3%. And one of the commentators said, you know, if Donald Trump gets 25%, with the African-American community, this election is over. Trump wins. Trump wins. But the other thing is, I'm going to bring in Michigan. These are states, just so you understand, that, you know, a guy like a Marco or a guy like Lion Ted Cruz, these are states that a normal Republican, because I'm not a normal Republican in many ways, but a normal Republican cannot think in terms, frankly, I hate to say this, cannot think in terms of bringing in Michigan. And if you don't bring in Michigan, that's, you know, it's tough. It makes it, you have a very narrow road. Structurally, it's very hard for a Republican to get elected, structurally. But I'm going to bring in places like Michigan. I think we're going to win Michigan. Who is going to vote? Who is going to vote for Hillary over Trump? You want Trump? Who wants Hillary? Who wants Trump? You'll be happy. Oh, you're going to be happy. Oh, you're going to be. So what is happening is I've been winning a lot of polls against Hillary, and I haven't even started on her yet, other than 4 weeks ago where I had to give her a little shot, right? You know the sad thing? Bernie Sanders got all the credit. 4 weeks ago, she said I was sexist, which I'm not. And I said, you can't call me sexist. And then I sort of alluded to the husband. I don't want to go through it right now, but let's put it this way. They had a very tough weekend together, right? And she totally silenced. She totally stopped. And because of the tremendous press that got, not only did she have a bad weekend, but Bernie Sanders looked like a genius because her poll numbers went down because of me. her poll numbers, and Bernie Sanders all of a sudden, remember the big surge, Bernie Sanders, this guy doesn't have a chance, okay? Bernie Sanders is surging. Hillary's way down. That's 4 weeks ago. Take a look. The day I hit her and her husband, because he was fair game, because he's in the campaign, I said, let me ask you, is he campaigning? Yes. Okay, then here's the story, right? Right? And I said, Hillary is an enabler, right? I said she's an enabler. She enabled him. Get out of here. Get out. Out, out. Get him out of here. That's strange. He looks like an Elvis impersonator. That's strange, because all the Elvis impersonators love Donald Trump. They love me. That's very sad. That makes me very unhappy. So I said that Hillary's an enabler, and that was the end of it. But she crashed. Remember that? She totally crashed, and they gave Bernie the credit like he's some mastermind. Let me tell you something. Bernie never had a chance. Bernie's going down, and it's over. Now, the only thing that can save him is if something happens to Hillary with regard to the emails, which should happen. Should happen. Should happen. Do you remember, though, it was a sad thing. Do you remember when the microphones were taken over, when the two girls came up, and they took over the mics, they start screaming as he's speaking, and here's what he did. Oh, okay. And he went to the back of the stage and he watched them speak. I said, that's never happening with Trump, folks. That's never happening. That's not going to happen with your Trump. So here's the story. And I want credit. Press, I want credit for the big down moment in Hillary. Okay, you never gave me credit for that. You gave it to Bernie. Bernie should thank me. I want Bernie to make a speech today and thank me. Because if you look at that, I should get credit. Thank you, media, you dishonest people. Thank you. World's most dishonest people, the media. Oh, they are disgusting. They know. They write stories about me that they know are wrong. But and just before I get back to the cars, because I do want to talk about cars, and then we get the hell out of here, okay? But I do want to talk about cars. But I have to say this. They will write stories knowing that the stories are wrong. You will say, the New York Times, the failing New York Times wrote a story about me last week that was so wrong that I actually called. Usually I don't even call. I just say, oh, forget it. Because the good news is, for the most part, it's just like newspaper. You throw it away the next day. Nobody even, you make a big deal. You read the story, it's so wrong. Nobody even sees it. It's like, it doesn't matter. Fortunately, a lot of power has been lost. Maybe it's because there's so many different sources or whatever. But the level of dishonesty is absolutely incredible. So it's good. But I want to do something, because I think when they write false reports, you and I and anybody else, where they're writing falsely, should have the ability to sue, like the New York Times. Now, this only makes it more difficult for me, because now they'll come after me even more, but they can't be any worse than they are. They are real scum. So we should have the ability to sue the New York Times or sue the Washington Post. We should have, which is highly inaccurate about me. And look, the Washington Post was bought by the man that runs and has a big chunk of Amazon, right? 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 Okay. That's all right. Get him out. Get him out. Okay, there go the cameras. Look at that. It's the only way we get those cameras to turn. Get them out. Hey, are Trump rallies the most fun, right? Do we have a good time? We're having a good time. So the Washington Post is owned by the guy who owns Amazon, much bigger business, owns a big chunk, rich guy. He bought it. And he uses the Washington Post as his power tool so that they don't raise taxes on Amazon. And they don't raise taxes on other things he owns. And it's smart. I mean, I have to tell you, it's smart. It's peanuts for him, so you won't see it closing or anything. They have more reporters than I've ever seen. No, but we got to do something about it. Now, he loses a lot of money with the Washington Post, but that's fine because it doesn't mean it's small money compared to what he has. But he uses that as his lobbying tool, as his political tool, and he's allowed a tax deduction on his losses. So we're going to explain the whole thing. I've been explaining the whole thing. I actually think he's a very nice guy. I think it's a very smart move, but I just want you to understand, these newspapers are so corrupt and so dishonest, we got to do something about it. We got to do something about it. So Tennessee was going to have a car plant. And what happened, they're all set, big foreign company, and boom, one day they read they've decided to go to Mexico just before signing. You all heard about it. It was a terrible thing. And Tennessee lost that plant. And I love Tennessee because they voted for me last week. I mean, Super Tuesday was incredible, right? I don't forget those places that vote for me. The ones that don't, I can maybe forget them. But there haven't been too many of them, have there? But Tennessee was great. We won by a lot. And they're great people, amazing people, great country music, by the way, but amazing, amazing people. And they were going to have a car plant, and at the last moment, they went to Mexico. Now, let me just tell you. So Ford, and this has been my favorite story, so I'll give you the A+ story as opposed to the D because we're in Michigan, right? So Ford, good company, done a good job and all that, good new person taking over, and the person that ran it is a fantastic guy, no complaints. But Ford decides to build a $2.5 billion plant in Mexico. And I'm saying to myself, that's a lot. That's a big plant. Now, to do that, I mean, they don't want to talk about that, but to do that, they had to close plenty of things. Is that right? Do you know about it? I assume they closed a lot in Michigan to build that. Is that correct? You're in the company. So they closed, how many plants did they close in Michigan to build that one big, massive one? A lot? He thinks at least 2. Okay. Get out of here. Get out. Out. Oh, this is amazing. So much fun. I love it. I love it. We having a good time? USA. USA. All right, yeah, get him out. Try not to hurt him. If you do, I'll defend you in court. Don't worry about it. You know, one of the things that happened, he wasn't bad, but some of these protesters are really violent people. Now, if we're tough with them, we get criticized. We had one guy in New Hampshire, actually, who was a rough guy, and he was swinging and punching, and he was really going down for the count. And we had a couple of people in the audience who were equally rough, and they took him out. They took him out. And no, they took him out. And I'll tell you what, it was really amazing to watch. And, you know, this was a seriously tough cookie. A guy looked like an NFL football player. We had 4 guys. They jumped at him. They were swinging and swinging. The next day, we got killed in the press. That we were too rough. Give me a break, you know? Right? We don't want to be too politically correct anymore, right, folks? So, no, it's very unfair. You know, they're allowed to swing and punch the hell out of people, but if we get a little bit rough in taking them out, oh, we're terrible people. You know, that's the way it is. It's one of the many reasons our country's going to hell. All right. So Ford wants to open a plant. So 2 years ago, they announced they're going to open this massive plant in Mexico. And I'm saying to myself, hey, I was a very good student. I went to the best school, Wharton. You don't have to go to Wharton. You don't have to go to a good school. You don't have to go to school. It's not going to do us any good, okay? It's not. All I know is they're closing, as you say, at least 2 plants. He's a man who works for Ford. But they close plants. Somewhere in the United States, plants are closing because this thing is massive. So they're going to make cars, trucks, and parts, okay? So I'm saying to myself, boy, that's a big deal. Now, in the meantime, Carrier just announced they're going down to Mexico. You saw that? They just announced it. Divisions of United Technologies are now moving into Mexico. Nabisco from Chicago, no more Oreos, folks, no more. Nabisco is closing their big plant in Chicago. They're moving to Mexico. We better be careful. We better be careful. We're losing our businesses, folks. Pfizer, you know, is moving out of the United States, the big, massive pharmaceutical. They're moving to Ireland. They're moving to Ireland. We better be careful. You know, this corporate inversion is really a big problem. But Pfizer's moving, and we have a lot of companies. That'll all change if I'm president, because I know how to do it. Okay, so here's what happens. And I put myself in the position. If a guy like Little Marco becomes president, which I think is unlikely, Look, when you are rated at 31% likability in your own state because he's terrible, you're going to have a hard time being president. But whether it's Little Marco or Lion Ted, one of the other, let's say, because, you know, we are down to 4 people. And the people are going against Hillary, and she is not going to be tough to beat. She is so flawed. She's got such problems. And I do believe this. I do believe that if the government does the right thing, and I'm a big fan and a big believer in the FBI, if the government does the right thing, under no circumstances will she be allowed to run. Even though I most want to run against her. I most want to. So what happens is if you have one of these people, or Hillary as president, what will happen is the following. Number one, they're totally controlled by the special interests and their donors and their lobbyists, 100%. So, and these are not stupid people. So they will look at it and they'll say, oh, this is ridiculous, this is bad for the country. Then Ford will send its lobbyist up to see the president, and Ford will have raised many millions of dollars for him or her, and will send other people up, special interest, donors, stockholders, to see the president. They'll say, you can't do this. I gave you $5 million. You can't do this. I gave you a PAC. These super PACs are a disaster, by the way, just so you know. I don't have any super PACs. I'm the only one who doesn't have a super PAC. I feel I'm not so happy. I just wonder, is it worth it? You know, I don't know if it's appreciated. I'm the only one. I don't have super PACs. I don't have money. I don't have people going out buying. I don't have to put it. I just wonder. I'm spending a fortune, okay? Even though I spend less than anybody else, and I'm in first place. I'm here, there, but still, it's a lot of money. And I wonder, do I get credit for not having super PACs? And do I get credit? Do I get credit? Because, you know, I have friends that call me. I had one friend from Michigan just call me, actually, good guy, rich guy. Said, Donald, I want to give you $5 million. I said, I can't take it. No, you don't understand. I want to give it to you. I said, I can't take it. I'm not taking money. Other than the little donations from people that send in $200 and $150 and $17. Because, frankly, those are people that really believe, and those are people that invest, okay? And it doesn't matter to a whole lot. And how do you send it back to them? A woman sends me a check for $17.50 with a 4-page note. What do I do? Say, sorry, I'm not taking your money, you know. So it's one of those things. You read the letter. You sit down all night and read those long letters. We get the longest letters from people because they want hope. And usually the less the money, the longer the letter. It's really an interesting phenomenon. So anyway, so I'm not taking the money. I'm not taking the money. And I say to myself, I really believe this. I know when you go into the booth, you might like Trump, you might like somebody else, but nobody says, well, I sort of like Trump, and I like the other guy too, but I'm going to vote for the other guy. I know that I don't get credit for the fact that I'm the only one that's not bought and paid for, folks. It's a big thing. It's a big thing. And you know, it's hard for me because, you know, my whole life has been about taking money, right? Taking money. I take. I'm a business person. That's what I'm supposed to do. My job is to take money. My job is, in a sense, I hate to say it, to be greedy. And I'm greedy. I go like this, more. I want more. Now I'm going to be greedy for the United States. I'm going to be really greedy for the United States. So with Ford, Ford is going to open the plant. Now, when Hillary or Ted or any of these people, they become president, they're all taken care of. They're all bought. They're all 100% bought. So they know what's right. It's a bad thing. But they'll be told, you can't do it. This guy gave you 10 million. This guy gave you 5 million. And you know what? I understand that. Psychologically, they can't do it. Well, how can I do that? They helped me when I needed money. How can I say, you got to move back? Okay, so here's what I'm doing. When a company wants to move, I'm going to have the top people talk to them. And I will. I know they're going to say it's not presidential. You know, they're always saying. They said the other night when I won, when I had the big victory in the Super, you saw that, the SEC. The big night. We won seven states. And then we came in second. I mean, second is like a bad thing. I mean, we won so much. I mean, we won. It was, you know, sort of semi-record setting, I guess. But anyway, so we had this great night. But here's the story. So what happens is I'm going to say the following. I'm going to say, number one, I'm going to call. They thought I was very presidential that night. They thought I was so, they said, why? No, the press. They said, I got great reviews. I made a speech afterwards. I had a news conference. I took questions. And they said, during that night where we won 7 states, they said, I was at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida, and they said, he was so presidential. Well, when I'm on a debate stage and I have all these people throwing things at me, you got to fight back. Somebody said, Donald, you're the leader, the prohibitive favorite. Just stand there and take it. I can't do that, right? I can't do. They actually said, be presidential. I said, does that mean that I can't fight? So when little Marco spews his crap about the size of my hands, which are big, the size of my hand. Now, he made a thing. He says, well, Donald Trump has, let's see, what can I say? What can I say? So I looked at him, I said, Marco? No, I just wanted to say, look at that. Those hands can hit a golf ball 285 yards, right? Those are good, strong. I've never been criticized about the size of my hands before. I'm saying to myself, what's going on here? So anyway, so what do I do? For the rest of my life, I have the curse that I have little hands. Little hands. Take that guy. So I said to my people, so what do? Do I stand back and just take incoming and act presidential? So now I'm Donald Trump is a con man. Donald Trump is this. And I'm standing like that. You know what would happen? You know how many people I'd have in this room if I did that? I'd have about 7. I'd have 7. And they would be mostly the protesters that were thrown out. No, we can't take it. That's the problem with our country. Our country takes abuse from everybody and we don't do anything about it. When Vicente Fox gets angry because we are actually telling him that we're going to have a wall and we're going to build a wall and he's going to pay for it, he can't believe that this country is saying this to him. That's why I loved my statement when I said now it got too old. I've just loved it. I don't want to repeat it, but I loved it. Okay, are you ready? So here's what happens. These guys are going to do nothing. You understand that. They're going to do nothing because they are bought and paid for. In fact, you have special lobbyists. It has Marco Rubio on the forehead. It's like stamped. You need Marco Rubio's vote, you call up a certain guy in Washington. You need Ted Cruz's vote, who, by the way, is totally under the ether of the oil companies, which is fine, but that's the way it is. You need Ted Cruz's vote. It says call up so-and-so on K Street. 100% he'll take care of it. He gets his $1 million, $2 million, and you have your vote. You know, it's just the way it works, folks. No good. With me, nobody gave me anything. Nobody gave me. So here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen. Smart people, so they get called and they immediately get turned off by their lobbyists, special interest, and donors. Okay, so that's the end. So Ford will build and by the way, 3 days ago, I'm reading the paper, and because there was no pressure put on Ford, they're now doubling down. Did you see that? They're now going up with more. The $2.5 billion was 2 years ago. I've been talking about this for 2 years. And what a better place to speak than Michigan about this, right? Right? But I've been talking about this Ford plant because it bugged me. I've been talking about Carrier and I've been talking about others, but the Ford plant bugged me because it was so damn big, okay? And because it's the car industry. So what happened is this. They will not do anything, and I think we agree. Now, okay, now let's assume Donald Trump becomes the president of the United States. No game. Now I'm going to be so presidential. I'll be so presidential that you people will be screaming, loosen up, President, loosen up. They'll be saying, you know, I wish the president would loosen up a little bit. All right, okay. But here's the thing. I have the best businessmen and best businesswomen in the world, know them all. So what we're doing is this, and we have the greatest business people in this country. So I will have people, but this is too easy. I want to do it myself because I love doing this stuff. You know, Obama likes relaxing and going on vacations. Me, I like working. I like working, I really do. I like it. So I want to do it myself. So I have Carl Icahn, I have all of these people. I want to do it myself. So here's what happens. I call up the head of Ford, and I say, here's the story. I want you to enjoy your new plant. I hope it goes up on time, on budget, on schedule. I want it to be a beautiful plant, and I hope you produce beautiful cars, trucks, and plants, and I hope you have wonderful labor relations with all of your Mexican employees, okay? But you've hurt the United States because thousands and thousands of people are put out of jobs, and you're sort of leading the way into Mexico because since you've announced, many other people have announced. And the problem is we have very stupid leaders. We have leaders that are very stupid, but now we have a very smart leader. And here is the story. And here is the story. And here's what some of the super conservatives don't like about me, because I'm a free trader, but I'm a really smart trader, right? So I'm going to tell them, sorry, folks, but every car, truck, and part that you make and is shipped into the United States, you are going to pay a 35% tax on it. Okay? You're going to pay it. So you're going to pay a 35% tax anytime you ship a car, truck, or part into the United States. Now, they're going to say, Mr. President, no way, we can't do that. Then I'm going to be besieged by lobbyists and all these people, half of whom I know. I'm not going to do anything for them. I know them. Some are good guys, some are real sleaze, by the way. I want to tell you, these are serious sleaze. These are really dishonest people. These are players at the highest level. So I will be besieged by these people, and I'll just laugh at them and hang up, and that'll be it. Within 24 to 48 hours, I will get a call from the head of Ford, and he will say, Mr. President, we have decided that we will build our new plant in the United States. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Now, that's not 90% sure. It's not 95% sure. Not 98 point. That's 100%. 100%. 100%. And I want to do it myself, I'm sorry. And they'll say, I can't believe the President of the United States is calling Ford and Carrier. How about I call Carrier air conditioner? This is the President of the United States. By the way, any air conditioner unit that you make and ship into the United States, you're going to be paying a 35% tax. Oh, no, Mr. President, I promise, we're not leaving. We're staying in the United States, sir. We love the United States, okay? Now, they've got all kinds of formulas. They've got all sorts of nonsense. It's the only way you're going to keep your companies, folks. And if you want to keep your companies, get used to it, because that's what's going to have to do. And don't call it free trade anymore. Call it really, really, really smart trade, all right? One of these guys said yesterday, oh, my God, Donald, it was a stupid Romney, stupid Mitt. He is a dumb guy. I swear, I've always said he's a dumb guy. Stupid Mitt said, Donald Trump will ruin our economy. Well, our economy had last quarter GDP 0. We had no growth. You know, if China has 7 or 8%, it's like a catastrophe. With us, we had no growth. Last quarter, no growth. We're growing, and yet that's going down. We're going to be negative. We're going to be negative GDP. That means that people are leaving. That means that our industries are leaving. That's what's happening. I'm telling you, he's a stupid person. Here's the story. Here's the story. He said, we will ruin our relations with other countries. Now, China, I'm very friendly with them at the highest levels. I love China, great. But I made a lot of money on China. They pay me tens of millions for my condos. I told you I have the biggest bank in the world as my tenant. I own the Bank of America building in San Francisco, a big chunk of it, 1290 Avenue of the Americas, one of the biggest buildings in New York City, the largest floor plates in New York City, all through China. And I don't mean friendly, I mean sort of unfriendly. But I think China's great. They're smart. They come at you in waves. They don't have a meeting with one person. They have like 15 people, so that if the one guy makes a mistake, they catch it. These guys are smart. And we'll have some, hack sitting across the table from these 16, 15 killers The poor guy doesn't have a chance. That's going to end. Okay, so here's the story. So Romney said, he'll ruin our economy. We won't be able to trade anymore. Let me tell you something. Hey, folks, when you lose $500 billion a year with a company, when you lose $500 billion a year with all of these companies that we do business with in China, but more importantly, when you lose $505 billion, to be exact, in trade deficits with China, who the hell cares if you do business or not? Who cares? We can't do that. We can't have trade. We can't have trade deficits of the magnitude that we're talking about. You know, breaking even is not great, but if you broke even, I can see it. But, you know, we're worried about, we have politicians like a Romney guy. You know, these are people from the wrong age. When you have that kind of a loss, Mexico, we have a trade deficit with Mexico of $58 billion a year. That's why a lot of people say, these politicians come off the stage recently. They say, you can't get Mexico to pay for the wall. I said, of course we can. Now, they can't. By the way, I could give them all the ammunition. They still would. Look at the Iran deal. $150 billion, we got nothing. And we should have had our prisoners back 4 years ago, not now. We should have been back 4 years ago. And we shouldn't have started the negotiations until they came back. That deal was made by incompetent people. So here's the story. Here's the story. So with Ford, they're going to move back. And they'll tell me, and it'll be so beautiful. And I'll be so happy, even though I'm not supposed to make the call. But I'm going to make the call. Not presidential, but I'm going to make the call because it's too easy. And they'll say, Mr. President, we're moving back. Would you like him to move to Michigan? I say, yeah, I really want him to move to Michigan. Okay? I want him to move to Michigan. So all of the polls, and they'll move back. We're going to stop this onslaught. We're going to lose. I'll tell you what, this election better take place fast because we're not going to, by the time I take office, we're not going to have any companies left in this country. China has taken alone millions of jobs, thousands and thousands of plants and factories. Thousands. You wouldn't believe that. But then they actually gave me a number of 50,000. I can't believe, so I'm not going to say 50,000. But I hear 50, but let's just say thousands. They've taken thousands of plants and businesses, and we're going to stop it. We're going to stop it. We have rebuilt China. Now, China is just one, and I use that because it's by far the biggest, and it's the biggest abuser. But China, but Mexico, I'll tell you what, for your industry, Mexico's a disaster. Mexico is, for the car industry, Mexico is a total and complete disaster. Now, in all fairness to Michigan, we're going to try and get them to go to Michigan. But you know what? At least they got to stay in the United States, right? They have to stay here. They got to stay here. And they're going to stay here, and ideally they're going to stay in Michigan. So here's the story, folks. When I first started, it was about trade, it was about the border. Then you had the horror show in Paris. And by the way, I will protect 100% the Second Amendment. Second Amendment. I will repeal and replace Obamacare, which is a catastrophe. I will totally terminate Common Core. Education will be local. And I will totally rebuild our military. It'll be bigger and better and stronger than ever before. And nobody will mess with them. And one thing, and I have to say this because I say it all the time, we have to take care of our vets. Our vets are being treated horribly. You know, our vets, this is a number that's hard to believe also. Thank you. Thank you. Our vets are being just treated horribly. Think of this: 22 suicides a day. It's not even a believable number. 22 suicides a day. So we're going to help our vets. Right now, illegal immigrants are treated better than many of our vets. Not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But today was special. Because it's Michigan, I did want to talk about industry. I did want to talk about the cars. That's why I spent so much time talking about cars. We're going to bring the industry back to Michigan. We're going to bring a lot of industry back to our country. Someday, Apple is going to make their iPhones in the United States and not in China. And it's not going to be too far off. We're going to make it so that they do that. We're going to make it so that it makes economic sense for them to do that, because we have people in Washington that truly don't know what they're doing. So this has been an amazing honor. This is an amazing place, an amazing state. We're way, way up in the Michigan polls, and I want to keep it that way. You know, the polls don't mean anything, because the worst is you're way up and you win by a little bit, and then they say, oh, he had a bad day. We got to show, just do me one favor. Give me that big margin. I want the margin, because it gives us more power, right? So on Tuesday, please, everybody, no money. I don't want anything. I just want you to go out and raise your hand. Raise your hand. Go out and vote. I love you. I love you, Michigan. I love you, Michigan. Thank you. Thank you, Michigan. Go out and vote. You're going to be very happy. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.